I kickstart the big, much anticipated Newstrack showdown tonight, I want to show you the new satellite images that have come to the fore. Because on the one side, you've got someone like a Colonel Ajai Shukla who argues that the satellite images and all the other information that is coming out of the army troops that are deployed in the Ladakh sector suggests that there's been a deep, very unprecedented Chinese military incursion, which the Indian government isn't speaking about publicly. Then you've got Abhijit Iyer, who's looking at the same satellite pictures taken from different angles, different sources, and coming to the conclusion that this is just unnecessary hype, that the Chinese came in, and that none of us have any reason to be worried about. So before I kickstart our big debate tonight, both these experts are now live with us. I want to show you what the new satellite images say. Take a look at it. We're not attaching ourselves to either point of view. Just process what you see in these satellite pictures, and then we look at the evidence at hand. Is this the biggest story that each one of us needs to think about, worry about, and figure out how to repel the Chinese attack? Or is it just a lot of hype for no great reason? Here's our lead story.
Nearly a full month in a tense standoff. The world's two most populous nations locked in a menacing bind in Ladakh, with unending propaganda from the Chinese side and a studied silence from India. The sharpest view of the situation has been from the sky. But by far the most sought after, viewed and discussed have been these images by an open source intelligence expert who identifies himself or herself simply as Detresfar. Real name, location and all other details remain masked for obvious reasons. This is a sensitive topic involving powerful agencies and nations. Employing commercial satellite imagery and open source reports, Detresfar's daily feed on social media has provided the most precise updates on the troop standoff, each image explained in mesmerizing detail. Like this image of the Chinese build-up in the hot springs area, one of the 4 Ladakh flashpoints. Or this set of images appearing to capture Chinese boat movements on the Pangong Lake not far from another standoff point. Or this very viral image of India beefing up its forces near its positions at Pangong So and Gogra in response to China's border actions. Then there's this hugely followed image showing Chinese units climbing upwards from the base area at Finger 4 or 5 at Pangong So, creating a new trail. And finally, these fresh images of the large-scale Chinese activity near India's Gogra post. While his open-source intelligence analysis has spoken for itself, Detresfar has also gained validation with his work used by several large media organizations. Linked to a larger intelligence and imagery company, Shadowbreak, Detresfar has chosen to remain anonymous. But it is only to India today that he's agreed to speak in an exclusive interview.
They have been building up capacity along the line of actual control as well. However, I think India's reciprocal infrastructure measures caught them by surprise. They never expected India to turn their own playbook against them. The very well thought through and planned road and logistics network developed by China, their focus on rapid mobilization and the ability to concentrate large forces in a short span of time across their areas of interest is commendable. Both sides are testing gray areas and displaying a recurring pattern of belligerence. However, given domestic realities on both sides, expect these gray areas to continue lingering.
From the shadowy secret world of open source intelligence, the images finally have a voice. In Delhi, Shiv Arur for India Today.
Let's kickstart the big Newstrack showdown tonight. I want to welcome first Colonel Ajai Shukla, military veteran, top military analyst. He's taken the view that there is a deep, very dangerous Chinese military incursion on Indian soil, that this is a Kargil-like saga, a big intelligence failure, and the government is trying to hush it under the carpet. On the other hand, we've got Abhijit Iyer, who's been working with open source experts, who's looked at satellite pictures and come to the conclusion that there is a lot of hype by those who hate the government and there is absolutely no reason to worry. We've had Ajai Shukla on our show earlier, so I'll start with Abhijit Iyer. And if you can lay out for our viewers why you think that this is a lot of hullabaloo for no reason, that the Chinese army came in, as it often does, it's gone back, and there is absolutely no reason for anyone who's watching you to be in the least bit concerned. Abhijit Iyer, let's start with you.
Thanks, Rahul. So there are several reasons for this. We have been, that is to say, me and Detresfa, who you played the report on, we have been doing satellite scans consistently for the last 4 weeks now, looking at troop buildups in that area. We have surveyed every single square inch possible. Now, we found very few things that seem to indicate any kind of an incursion happening. And you know what has been particularly irritating is that the other side that claims that there is an incursion isn't willing to provide any images. They are not willing to provide any kind of coordinates. They are not willing to draw any maps. They are willing to exactly say nothing other than there is an occupation. Now, I can tell you very clearly, and this is multiple satellites, multiple days, over a 4-week time period that we've surveyed it, we have not seen any large-scale intrusion. There was a small intrusion that came in at Galwan, about 40 to 60 people that got beaten back. There were rapid drive-thrus in and out of Pangong, which we could only extrapolate because of the videos that came out yesterday. You know, the videos of Indian troops being detained and Chinese troops being driven back by Indians. And we had to geolocate that onto a map to figure out what had happened, because all the imagery of vehicles on the ground isn't showing Chinese vehicles or Chinese posts on the Indian side. We have even, there has been talk that they have taken over the mountain heights. Now, you know, taking over mountain heights leaves telltale signs. You can see trails going up. That's a very important indicator. By the trails, you can measure out what kind of equipment they can take up. Once they get to the snow line, they need bunkers and things to survive, tents, whatever to survive. And these satellites are very, very powerful satellites. You can pick up all these things. We haven't been able to pick up a single thing.
Okay.
Two things that we were able to pick up that were of great concern was in Galwan. The Chinese have stopped the flow of the Galwan River, which is very, very serious for the lower riparian rights of India, and it goes against what they've said at several international fora. The second is a piece coming out tomorrow with imagery, which will again show you that there is a significant buildup in the Gogra area, but well within the Chinese side of the LAC. There is nothing on the Indian side of the LAC, but in Gogra they have about 20, 30 armored equipment, field howitzers, and BMP-style infantry combat vehicles.
Colonel Ajai Shukla, the charge against you is this: there is absolutely no hardcore material evidence that you've been able to put out to build the case that there's a deep Chinese incursion. Secondly, the charge that this is largely coming from those who don't like the government and therefore want to create the spectre of doubt in the minds of people without being able to provide any evidence to back it. Colonel Ajai Shukla.
First of all, let's be clear and let the viewers be clear on one thing. Satellite image interpretation is not a job for the untrained eye. People have to study, people have to learn the trade, people have to do satellite interpretation for years before they actually pick up images and can derive useful information from them. It is not a job for civilian geopolitical analysts to try and do a satellite photo interpretation. They'll almost always get it wrong. Secondly, this debate is already over. As you would know, I hope, the defense minister has come out. He has admitted that there are a large number of Chinese on the Indian side of the line of actual control. An area that is claimed by India. The words he used was "अच्छे खासे तादाद में आए हुए हैं Chinese." The military to military talks are now going to be held to resolve this issue. They are scheduled for the 6th of June. Indian generals will be meeting Chinese generals, at least that's what they're trying to arrange, and will then be trying to resolve this issue. The defense minister in his speech also compared this with the earlier intrusions that had taken place in Depsang in 2013, in Chumar in 2014, and in Doklam in 2017, and said that we hope that the Chinese reflect on this and can do something about it. So this debate about whether the Chinese have come into the Indian side is already over. It is not somebody who is unfriendly to the government who has said it. It is the government's defense minister himself. They are now trying to resolve the issue through diplomatic and military talks. And I would suggest that all these so-called satellite photo interpreters who have been saying that nothing has happened, they have now been contradicted by the defense minister himself, and they should give up a photo interpretation.
The so-called satellite photo interpreters are being debunked by the defense minister is the charge, Abhijit Iyer, which you need to respond to, because no one in government, and I want to play out an excerpt of an interview we did with Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh. This is on the first day. This was the first question that was posed to him. Remember, there is no denial here about a large-scale Chinese incursion. What the government is saying instead is, we're trying to resolve this through dialogue and through diplomatic channels. Here is what Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh told the India Today group when he asked him this question.
भारत एक परिपक्व देश की तरह लाइन ऑफ एक्चुअल कंट्रोल पर इस पूरे मुद्दे को डील कर रहा है। वो सारी खबरें आती भी हैं, मुझे मालूम है कि आप लोग बहुत स्तर पर, चीन जैसे पड़ोसी देश के साथ हम बहुत स्तर पर डील करेंगे, लेकिन एक रक्षा मंत्री के तौर पर आप LAC की मौजूदा स्थिति को कैसे कहेंगे और देश को क्या आश्वासन देना चाहेंगे?
मैं देश को इतना ही आश्वासन देना चाहता हूं कि पूरी तरह से देश को आश्वस्त रहना चाहिए कि हम किसी भी सूरत में भारत के स्वाभिमान पर चोट नहीं पहुंचने देंगे। वैसे भारत की बहुत ही स्पष्ट नीति रही है कि हम अपने पड़ोसी देशों के साथ अपने रिश्ते अच्छे बनाकर चलें, और यह प्रयत्न हमारा आज से नहीं, पहले से ही बराबर भारत ये करता रहा है। लेकिन कभी कभी चीन के साथ कुछ ऐसी परिस्थितियां ये पैदा हो जाती हैं, और इसके पहले भी पैदा हुई हैं, और हाल फिलहाल में इस मई के महीने में भी वहां पर LAC के ऊपर, जैसा आपने कहा कि ये परिस्थितियां पैदा हुई हैं, लेकिन इसको सुलझाने की कोशिश जारी है। आपने चाइना के भी प्रेसिडेंट का भी स्टेटमेंट देखा होगा, पढ़ा होगा समाचार पत्रों में, और चैनल्स पर भी आपने देखा होगा उसे। उन्होंने स्पष्ट रूप से कहा कि हम डिप्लोमेटिक डायलॉग के द्वारा हम इस मामले को रिजॉल्व करना चाहते हैं। भारत की भी यही कोशिश है कि तनाव किसी भी सूरत में न बढ़े, बल्कि मिलिट्री लेवल पर यदि बातचीत करनी है तो मिलिट्री लेवल पर बातचीत करके, डिप्लोमेटिक लेवल पर बातचीत करनी है तो डिप्लोमेटिक लेवल पर बातचीत करके उस मामले को सुलझाया जाना चाहिए। और इस समय मैं जानकारी देना चाहता हूं कि मिलिट्री लेवल पर और डिप्लोमेटिक लेवल पर इस समय चाइना के साथ बातचीत चल रही है।
What weakens your case the most, Abhijit Iyer, is the government itself not taking the position that you have. Every single minister of the government who's spoken in public has said that talks are on, that we're trying to diplomatically disengage, send the Chinese back, and that we hope that soon the matter will get resolved. If there is no matter, if there is no incursion, then what is it that they're referring to?
Sorry, Rahul, where exactly in that piece did you see him disagree with me? Let me quote him exactly with the Amish Devgan interview. फिलहाल की जो घटना है, ये बात सच है कि सीमा पर इस समय चीन के लोग भी, उनका दावा है हमारा सीमा यहाँ तक है, भारत का ये दावा है कि हमारी सीमा यहाँ तक है, और उसको लेकर एक मतभेद हुआ है, और अच्छी खासी संख्या में चीन के लोग भी आ गए हैं, लेकिन भारत को अपने कब्जे में जो भी करना चाहिए भारत ने भी की है. Now I think it is quite funny that me, a Tamilian, has to sit and teach Hindi to two North Indians. Rajnath Singh never said there are Chinese troops in India. Show me the sentence where he says there are Chinese troops in India. I am not even a native Hindi speaker, and I could figure that out. And I'm amazed that two native North Indians aren't able to figure this out. Second, remember, these aren't some amateur satellite image analysts. Shadowbreak is a company that earns hundreds of millions of dollars based on its satellite interpretations, and they have built up this capacity over tens of years. These are very, very serious people. Okay, so it's very easy to say, that we shouldn't use images. It's very curious, of course, that Ajay uses this argument because when the images of the Balakot strike came out, he went off against an Italian journalist saying, she has sources, she doesn't have images. Now that there are images, he says, well, images don't matter, sources matter. By the end of it, the only thing we know is that the other side is not willing to provide any kind of images. They are not willing to allow themselves to be tied down to any maps. They are not even willing to give geographic coordinates. And what is even worse, this morning, Mr. Shukla made a huge snafu. He said that there was a blacktopping of a road going on, whereas the 2004 satellite image clearly shows that it had been asphalted and blacktopped over right up to Finger 4 at Pangong, all the way back in 2004. I'm sorry, but there is something to be said for being able to either interpret or speak Hindi and being able to see a simple satellite image or cartography or basic skills like that.
Okay, this then, Colonel Ajai Shukla, comes down to where the Indian claim line is. And the point that Abhijit Iyer and everyone else will make is that there is no understanding and agreement between the Indian and the Chinese armies about where our line ends and their line starts. And therefore, for you to argue that the Chinese are on Indian soil is devoid of evidence because there was never any agreement, and this business of difference in perception has been a long-standing reality of the existence of the Indian and the Chinese armies along the entire frontier.
Rahul, factually incorrect. There is an agreed and a clearly demarcated is the wrong word, but clearly claim line on the part of the Chinese in these areas. There are some areas where the LAC is not clear, but Galwan is not one of those. In 1956, 1959 and 1960, the Chinese have clearly put forward their claims in this area, and they have crossed over their own claim line. So this argument that the sort of LAC is not clear applies in certain other sectors, but it doesn't apply in Galwan, and it doesn't apply in Sikkim, where there is a settled international boundary and where the Chinese have crossed that and incurred at Nakula. So I think that, all these satellite interpreters and foreign companies and coming here and these shadowy people with masked voices, for me, the clear image is the defense minister of this country coming out on television, making a clear statement, not in a shadowy masked voice or, in some foreign tongue. He has clearly said that there is talks going on. We are trying to resolve the situation. And any incursion that has taken place in the Galwan Valley, I will remind that all our viewers over here on this show are in a sector where there is a clear settled claim line by the Chinese, which their troops have now crossed. They have occupied heights on the shoulders of where the Galwan River flows into the Shyok River. They are dominating the road. Air photo interpretation and satellite interpretation, even when done by skilled analysts, do not beat accounts from the ground from people who are actually involved in the events that are going on. Now, for obvious reasons, I am not going to give out who is giving me this information, but I'll tell you one thing, it's from a more reliable source, as has been evidenced by the defense minister's statement today, than some shadowy foreign company that has been doing satellite photo interpretation allegedly for 10 years.
Okay, so I want to keep the rhetoric and the personal potshots on the side and focus on the substance that we have. Abhijit Iyer, we've had the Northern Army commander travel to Ladakh. We've had the defense minister not once, not twice accept that yes, there is a Chinese build-up and that we're trying to diplomatically disengage. If there was no build-up, no incursion, there'd be nothing to be so concerned about. And not just what has been said on record, senior government representatives have been, in the word that they've been putting out, accepting that there is a problem which they're trying to resolve. If there is no problem, then what is it that everyone's trying to resolve? Why are we even here? We could just be sitting back and talking about something else.
But Rahul, what are we disagreeing about? I told you that there was a minor incursion in Galwan of about 40 to 60 people that got pushed back. They came in about 300 meters. In Pangong, there was a rapid drive-through. They came in about...
So I'll tell you what the disagreement is. Is it minor or major? Let's assume it's 40 and 60 and they came in and they went back. Then there is no cause for concern. If it is, as Ajai Shukla and others have been saying, 5,000 Chinese soldiers on Indian soil, that's a completely different situation that we're assessing. That's the disagreement.
Listen, it doesn't even take any kind of expert satellite analyst to figure out 5,000 troops on Indian soil. Okay, that's a bit like saying it takes a trained road watcher to see a truck that's coming to hit you. 5,000 troops leave a certain mark. It isn't even open up to interpretation anymore. That said, let's also be clear that these so-called shadowy foreign companies are at least willing to talk. Mr. Shukla's sources aren't even willing to talk. That said, let's be clear about one thing as well. Rajnath Singh has again, and I repeat, he has not said that they have come into Indian territory. He's actually said that we have done what we see to be the line of control. Okay. There has also been rapid intrusions. Yes, I agree with this. Is there a build-up? Yes, there is a build-up in Gogra, but it's on the Chinese side. What we are disagreeing on is this occupation of Indian territory. Okay. Now, my very simple question here is, fine, your sources are wonderfully reliable. What is their problem in giving you GPS coordinates or simply being willing to draw a map? Are they so incapable and so geographically challenged that they can't even draw a simple map out, a hand-drawn map?
Colonel Ajai Shukla, 5,000 soldiers is virtually give or take 5 battalions. That's almost 1 brigade. You can't move a brigade on Indian soil and that not be caught out. If that is the case, then it's Kargil redux all over again. And Abhijit Iyer says you can't move so many people and not have people find out.
Oh, yes, you can. In the Aksai chain, in these areas, there are no civilians, there is no habitation. You can move a brigade and not be caught out. I'm sort of a bit befuddled by this argument that is being presented to presumably a lot of intelligence viewers that the Chinese are not, they are building up on the Chinese side. They've not entered Indian territory. Or if they had, they've just darted in and darted back again into Chinese territory, a small, sharp incursion as people are phrasing it. What does this mean? The defense minister is getting het up. He's giving television interviews to multiple channels because the Chinese are building up on their side. Is that the case? And this word of they have not crossed the LAC, Rajnath Singh says, no, he never said they have not crossed the LAC. In fact, if they hadn't crossed the LAC, then why exactly is he making these statements at all? Coming to the point of where the incursions have taken place, GPS coordinates are required when you don't have reference points. Then you have GPS coordinates. Here it is clearly known where the incursion has taken place. For the benefit of viewers and for the benefit of Abhijit Iyer, I will repeat that it has taken place amongst other places, most worrisomely, on the shoulders of the Galwan River at the point where it flows into the Shok, from where Chinese troops can dominate the road to Daulat Beg Oldie. That is a reverse Kargil, or reverse might not be the right word, a Chinese Kargil, I should say. If they have entered just like the Pakistanis were dominating the Kargil Leh road. The Chinese are now dominating the Darbuk, Shok, Daulat Beg Oldie road. And that is what the Indians are trying to talk about. They are trying to get the Chinese to withdraw from these positions. I hope that they are successful.
Colonel Shukla, for those who don't understand the topography and the lay of the land, can you explain why the Chinese dominating a position where they oversee the Darbuk, Shok, Daulat Beg Oldie road, the DSDBO, is so crucial to India's strategic interests? And what do you think the design of the Chinese is?
There's a very simple reason for that, Rahul. The whole Chinese dispute in Ladakh came to the fore in 1956-57 when Chinese built their western highway through the Aksai chain. This is the highway that connects the two crucial outlying regions of Xinjiang on the one hand and Tibet on the other. So this is a strategic road. It is a road that connects two very far-flung areas of China, and China is acutely sensitive to this road. Any Indian build-up in the areas that provide access to this road, and now I talk about Daulat Beg Oldie, Galwan, and these particular areas, from where the Indian troops have a way of reaching that Chinese road. Any Indian infrastructure built up into this area is treated very seriously by the Chinese, and they get into a huff about it. So when India has built this Daulat Beg Oldie road and is now extending it into the Galwan Valley as well, the Chinese have apparently got extremely upset about this and extremely paranoid about this, and that is what has led to this reaction.
Now, Abhijit Iyer, let's zoom out of the satellite maps that you've been referring to for a moment and look at what's happening in the geopolitical space. We've had President Trump's offer twice over, once on Twitter and once in person, to mediate. He says Prime Minister Modi is angry, which the Indian government denied. But the fact is that there has been an acceptance that there have been intelligence dispatches that the President of the United States has seen, which talk about a big flare-up and a build-up on the border. It's not just what Ajai Shukla and his sources are saying. This is also being accepted by the United States President and their entire intelligence establishment. Abhijit Iyer.
So two things. First of all, tell me a conflict that President Trump hasn't tried to mediate. He said he was going to mediate Kashmir as well. Where did that land up? Right. Second, did you see Secretary Pompeo's interview where he says that there has been movement, that the Chinese have been moving troops along the LAC? Third, I want to get back to the arguments that were made before. You know, what is very curious is, and this is the problem of not knowing how satellites work, the habitat in that particular area, extremely arid areas, it is actually extremely easy to see movement across. Because see, there are shadows, there are things like that which are very, very easy to spot, unlike forest cover, forested hills, things like that, which become extremely difficult. And sometimes in heavily snowed in areas, telling white from white becomes very difficult. Here what we're seeing is a brown, barren landscape where the snow line sets in, where two different kinds of camouflage are required if you move from the dry areas, from the non-snowed areas to the snow areas, where satellite imagery shows shadows instantly. Picking up things in this particular habitat is, if you're a starter, if you're getting into satellite imagery, this is exactly the kind of places. You always, when you start up with satellite imagery, you're taught that this and C, the sea, is where you start off with your thing. So again, huge lack of knowledge on that. Second, remember, why is Rajnath saying this? Rajnath has not said everything that is being attributed to him. Rajnath did not say that there have troops come into the border. Rajnath has said what? That there were intrusions, that we have taken back what we believe to be ours, that there is a misinterpretation of the that there are differing interpretations of the border. And that's about it. And there has been a build-up. Now, I also agree with the build-up. I also agree with the intrusions. I also agree with him that all those intrusions, be they in Pangong, in that video we saw, and the one in Galwan, which you haven't seen the video, but they're up on the internet, images are up of those on the internet, have been pushed back. So I'm sorry, but there is a callous, very almost sinister attempt to constantly misquote, misrepresent, attribute things to people that they have not been said, a clear lack of knowledge of the terrain involved, a clear lack of knowledge of even the most basic satellite intel. I can actually show you websites where you can go and start becoming a satellite analyst, and they'll tell you what to look at in this kind of terrain. So I'm sorry, it just doesn't add up.
Apart from being a military face-off, this is now turning into a major political slugfest. You've got the opposition charging the government with trying to hush up the matter. You've got opposition leaders pulling out old comments made by BJP leaders when they were in opposition, saying, "Ab batti kyun band hai? Why are you not being able to say anything?" So before I come to the political dimension of this face-off, let me show you the political slugfest that's now started over this border face-off.
The standoff at the LAC in Ladakh has entered day 29. And as military talks are underway to diffuse tensions, both sides are refusing to relent. In a strong message to China, India has decided that it will continue its border road construction. In fact, the Ministry of Defence has asked Indian Railways to provide 11 trains to ferry labourers near Ladakh, Himachal and Jammu and Kashmir to help in ramping up border infrastructure. China too continues to provoke. After tanks and armed vehicles, Chinese fighter jets were seen close to the Indian territory. India has increased its surveillance and is keeping a hawk eye on Chinese movements. As the border situation remains tense, political temperatures too are rising. Congress spokesperson Manish Tiwari has alleged that China has occupied 30 to 40 square kilometers of Indian territory at the LAC.
I'm a little bit worried that the seriousness with which it should be handled is not apparent, at least is not apparent in the government's conduct.
Why can't they trust the government and the armed forces, which will do what is necessary in India's interest? This is just politics and opposition for the sake of politics and opposition.
5,000 से ज़्यादा ही इंडियन टेरिटरी पर कब्जा करके बैठे हैं। गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया की तरफ से डिफेंस मिनिस्टर का एक स्टेटमेंट आया मीडिया को कि वो चीन से बातचीत कर रहे हैं। और बातचीत क्या कर रहे हैं आप? बातचीत तो यही करना चाहिए, बोलते क्यों नहीं फिर आप?
Home Minister Shri Amit Shah ji has indeed said that India will not compromise even a bit of its interests in the Ladakh situation. India has shown that it is capable of resolving such situations in the past.
With multiple rounds of military talks between Indian and Chinese commanders on the ground failing to break the stalemate, will diplomatic talks achieve a breakthrough? With Anand Patel and Abhishek Bhalla in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
The political dimension of this debate takes away the ability to look at things dispassionately, because the charge that's being flung your way, Colonel Ajai Shukla, is that you're a critic of this government. No matter what it is that the BJP under Prime Minister Modi does, you don't tend to like what they do, and therefore you have a vested political interest in making it seem as if the Chinese have come and sat on our heads and that the government is doing nothing about it. How do you respond to that charge?
Oh, well, first of all, I am solidly behind the government in this particular matter. Now that Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has come out, acknowledged the scale of the problem, and announced that the military is doing what it needs to do, and that talks will be held. I am 100% with the government on this. So there is no political light between me and the government at all on this. I am an Indian first, and I am with the government on this. It's the Chinese incursion. It needs to be thrown out. Let's be absolutely clear. I'm with the Indian government on this. Second point, and this point needs to be understood very clearly. At no stage during this entire episode that has lasted more than a month has the Indian government or the Indian military denied that incursions have taken place, officially denied. No. A lot of people like Abhijit Iyer have come and with these so-called satellite images and made the denial on behalf of the government of India. But the government of India itself has never categorically denied that these incursions have taken place, nor has the military. So you have, on the one hand, this silence from the establishment, and on the other hand, you have this satellite images from God knows where coming out and claiming that no incursion has taken place.
Abhijit Iyer, the charge against you is that you're a propagandist for the government. You're saying what even the government isn't. They haven't denied the incursions. And there is an accusation of duplicity. Had this been Pakistan, by now everyone would have been saying in government, let's go pound them, let's go finish them. There would have been poetry which would have been put out in the public domain. But because this is China, there is silence. Respond, Abhijit Iyer, to the charge of being a propagandist, saying things which even the government isn't.
Well, look, Congress lackeys who have been promised Rajya Sabha tickets that they never get delivered on, they keep contradicting themselves. Now we're being told that the government has never denied that there were intrusions. Till about 5 minutes back, Mr. Ajai Shukla was saying Rajnath admitted to the intrusions. Look, we are not contesting the intrusions. Intrusions happened. What we're talking about is an occupation, 5,000 troops, 10,000 troops, 60 square kilometers of territory, 30 square kilometers of territory. Every day you look at one of his columns, it changes. The next thing you know, the Chinese troops will be sitting in Delhi, outside Delhi at Fatehpur Sikri or something like that. Agra to aa hi jayenge. So, I'm not going to get into this. As for what the opposition is doing, they should hold the government to account. The problem is, like on the Rafale, like on Doklam, they have this cabal of journalists who, to prop up their own importance within the ecosystem, keep feeding them with rubbish, and they fall for it. And opposition can never be an effective opposition if it peddles rubbish. To be effective, there are a lot of flaws in this government's response on a lot of things, including security, not in this particular instance, which they could have been calling out. They have not. The problem is when you keep crying wolf, when you keep getting caught out on your lies over and over again, and then when you get caught out, you start goalpost shifting. Nobody takes you seriously, not even the government.
Gentlemen, time up. We've heard two passionately argued points of view on the opposite sides of this big border face-off. I will not weigh in one way or the other because my far greater interest is in ensuring that the Chinese get a bloody nose and go scurrying back to where they came from. That is of primary concern. But how deep, how permanent this incursion is, how devious the dragon is in its designs, you've heard two completely different points of view, and we leave it to you to decide who you thought had the greater metal in his argument. For lighting up the Newstrack tonight, Colonel Ajai Shukla and Abhijit Mitra here for joining us on this showdown. Thank you. I'm slipping into a break.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kanwal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.